Hey guys, today we're diving into wine, that fancy sounding drink that's everywhere but low-key confusing as hell. Have you ever been at a restaurant staring at a wine list that's 10-20 pages long? Like, who needs that many options? You flip through it, and let's be real, the only words you recognize are red wine and white wine. The rest? Total blank stare. Screw this city. And don't even get me started on gifting wine. You're heading to a party, want to bring something nice? What's the perfect mood, right? But then you're standing in a liquor store, staring at rows of bottles with fancy labels, thinking, which one will they judge me if I pick the one with the pretty picture? We see wine everywhere, but let's admit it, most of us know next to nothing about it. I'm not a wine expert, but here's the tea. Once you learn a few super basic wine basics, like 80 to 90% of your wine-related panic moments will vanish. So next time you're picking a wine at dinner or grabbing one for a gift, you won't be flying blind. Plus it's a little adulting club. Let's call it upgrading your vibe without trying too hard. When everyone's talking about wine culture like they're some pros, you actually know what they're talking about. And maybe even chime in with a line or two. Sounds good? Let's go! Let's kick things off with the wine list itself. Usually, the main categories on the wine list boil down to 4 big ones: red, white, rosé, and sparkling. Now, there are more specific subcategories like sweet wines, dry reds, dry whites. But honestly, if you just nail these 4 basics, you're golden. Super straightforward, right? It's all about the physical vibes. Red wine's red, white's white, rosé is pink, and sparkling's, well, bubbly. But here's the real tea. The biggest difference between them is how they're made. Take red wine for example.
一颗葡萄变成葡萄酒。
So red wine is made with red skin grapes.
梗里的单宁比苦瓜还涩，必须扔掉，然后破碎机下给葡萄做马杀鸡。清新鸭破皮肉释放果汁，但工人还要手动挑出烂果和叶子，比点外卖挑香菜还。
So to recap, red wine equals red grapes plus skins during fermentation. White wine equals white grapes minus skins. Easy peasy. Now rosé is like the middle ground of grape skins. You use red skin grapes, but only let them hang out with the skins for a short time. Then you yank the skins out before full fermentation. The result, the dreaming dirty pink color that's so popular with ladies. And let's be real, everyone who loves pretty drinks. Someone saw that rose like you and was like, we need a fancy name for this. So they called it rosé. And fun fact, rosé is huge in Provence, France. You know, that lavender-filled paradise? They crank out some of the best rosé in the world. Now, sparkling wine. How does it get those bubbles? It's not just pumped full of CO2 like soda. That'll be unclassy. Come on, where does wine alcohol even come from? Grapes have sugar. Ferment that sugar, and bang, you get alcohol. But if you ferment that wine again, it turns into carbon dioxide. That's a traditional method. Sparkling wine gets second fermentation to lock in those bubbles. But here's a super important rule. Don't be that person who messes this up. Not all sparkling wine is champagne. Champagne is originating in France. They make amazing sparkling wine there. But legally, only wine from that exact area can call itself champagne. So next time you're at the store, don't yell, give me a bottle of champagne for every bubbly. Save that term for fancy French stuff. The rest, just call it sparkling wine. You sound way more in the know. So breaking it down by these main categories, generally speaking, white wine, rosé, and sparkling wine are way crisper and lighter. They are perfect for newbies, you know. Like, if a girl's just getting into wine, she'll probably start with one of these. Red wine, on the other hand, it's usually richer, more complex, like a mature cousin of the wine family. Case in point, you're on a date with a girl who doesn't drink wine that often. When you order, play it safe. Start with something crisp like a white or rosé. Don't be that guy who's like, I'll get a Bordeaux red. Yeah, it sounds fancy, but when she takes a sip, it's all bitter and tastes low-key like soy sauce. And boo, she'll never agree to a wine date with you again, do? Your chances? Totally toast. Trust me on this. Okay, so that's the absolute basics. But let's be real. When you look at the wine list, there's a bunch of fancy sounding words thrown at you. Burgundy, Pinot Noir, Champagne, Cabernet Sauvignon. 1 second it's a place, the next it's a grape you've never heard of. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces, right? Total chaos. But here's a secret key to unlocking the wine world. One tiny concept that'll make everything click. Old World vs New World. It's basically a way to group wine producing countries. And once you get this, you stop feeling like you're reading a foreign language. Old World wines? Think Europe, specifically the countries around the Mediterranean that started making wine ages ago. France is a big dog here, but also Spain, Italy, Germany, Portugal. These places have centuries of winemaking history and stick to super traditional methods. So over there, wines are labeled by their region, sometimes even by the specific winery, instead of the grape. That's why you see words like Bordeaux, Burgundy, or Champagne on the menu. Those are all old world regions, not grape types. New World wines? The exact opposite. Once people started immigrating around the globe, they brought winemaking with them. We're talking the US, Canada, Chile, Argentina, and hell, even China counts as New World. And let's be honest, New World winemakers aren't here for all the stuffy rules. It's all about quantity, industrial efficiency, and most importantly, having a good time drinking it. So in the New World, they keep it simple. The wine's named after the grape it's made from. Cabernet Sauvignon, that's a grape. Pinot Noir, grape. Chardonnay, yep, also a grape. No fancy region names to memorize. Just straight up, what you see is what you get. But here's the kicker. Wineists never bother labeling which is Old World and which is New World. They just throw all these terms together. Regions, grapes, random French words, and expect you to know the difference. No wonder we all feel confused. It's like mixing hulu and eggplants. Total mess. Don't worry, that's a weird Chinese idiom for jumbled chaos. You get the vibe. Now we say New World wines are labeled by grape. But not all grapes are created equal. Ever watch the sommelier take a sip and go, lovely silky tannins, full body with great depths? This sounds so fancy, right? Like they're speaking some secret wine code. Well, today we're diving into that fancy code. The next level of wine knowledge. Once you nail this, knowing the difference between red, white, rosé, and sparkling will feel like key stuff. We're moving up in the world. Let's talk about the key dimensions of tasting wine. There are 5 main ones: sweetness, acidity, alcohol content, tannins, and body. The first 3 are no-brainers. Sweet is sweet. The opposite of sweet in wine is dry. That's where terms like dry red or dry white come from. Acidity is just that tannin and alcohol content. Super straightforward. You can basically taste a boozy cake, but the last 2, tannins and body, these are the secret weapons for sounding like you know your stuff, aka the ultimate wine flex. Let's start with tannins. Here's the plain English version. Tannins are the stuff in wine that makes your mouth feel dry and a little puckery, like when you sip strong black tea or bite into an unripe banana. Technically, they're phenolic compounds, but who cares about this science? All you need to know is the irritated taste buds and mucous membranes in your mouth, making them shrink, and boom, you get that dry astringent feeling. Where do tannins come from? Mostly the grape skins and stems. Remember that key point we talked about earlier? Red wine is made with red-skinned grapes with their skins on during fermentation. That means red wine is only one with tannins. White wine, no skin, no tannins. Hence why it's so crisp and smooth. Simple, right? But tannins are little troublemakers. Here's a fun fact. They get way more bitter and astringent when it's cold. That's why we never chill red wine on purpose. But white wine? We want that crisp, refreshing vibe. So we stick it in a nice bucket. Cold white wine means happy taste buds. Makes sense now, doesn't it? Have you ever wondered about those fancy glass decanters people use for red wine? You know, the ones with all the weird shapes that look like they belong in a medieval castle. Yeah, those aren't just for show. Okay, maybe a little for show. The whole point is to let the wine breathe, letting the tannins react with air so they mellow out and lose their harsh dryness. All the good aromas stay, while the puckery stuff fades away. But pro tip, only older aged wines need decanting. Super new wines, like less than 5 years old, skip the decanter. It's unnecessary and you just look like you're trying too hard. We've all been there. Oh, and one more thing about wine glasses. Red wine glasses have those big bulbous bowls. Yep, that's also for tannins. The extra space lets more air mix with the wine, softening those tannins even more. White wine glasses though, they have smaller openings because we want to trap all those fruity aromas inside. See, all these fancy wine rituals trace back to tannins. Who knew one little compound could get so much drama and so many fancy accessories? Now let's talk body, the most vague, almost mystical wine term ever. I swear this is one of those words wine people made up just to sound fancy. So, what the heck does body even mean? In plain term, it's a weight of the wine in your mouth. I know. How can a liquid have weight? It sounds ridiculous, right? But let me break it down with something we all get. Milk. Think about it. You get skim milk, 2% milk, and whole milk. When you sip whole milk, it feels thicker, creamier, like it has more substance in your mouth compared to skim milk, which is super light and watery. That's exactly what wine body is. It's not a physical weight you can measure on a scale. It's a sensation. Light-bodied wine, skim milk. Full body wine, whole milk. See? Not that weird anymore. So what makes wine light or full bodied? Two big factors: tannins and alcohol content. The higher the tannins, the fuller the body. Same with alcohol. More alcohol, a heavier feeling wine. Why? Well, tannins give that dry puckery bite we talked about earlier. So when you sip wine with lots of tannins, it feels like it lingers long, like there's more oomph to it. In higher alcohol, it gives that warm, slightly spicy kick. You know, the one that makes your throat tingle a little. The warmth and kick also make the wine feel more substantial in your mouth, like it's got more weight. This is why red wines are almost always fuller bodied than white wines. Let's connect the dots here. Red grapes are usually grown in warmer regions than white grapes. Warmer weather means riper grapes, and riper grapes have more sugar. More sugar, more alcohol during fermentation, since yeast turns sugar into alcohol. More alcohol, a fuller body. On top of that, red wines have all those tannins we talked about earlier, double whammy full body. So between the higher alcohol and the tannins, red wines end up feeling way heavier and more robust than whites. It's all science, but we're making it sound like common sense, right? No fancy degrees required. So the next time you're sipping wine, you won't just be like, this is sick, this is good. Nah, you drop the real talk. Nice smooth tannins, super approachable, or wow, this is a full body beast. You sound like you're in on the secret, not just guessing. That's the level up we're talking about. No more winning it. Now you've got the lingo to back up your taste buds. It's like learning a new cheat code for adulting. You're welcome. Now, these 7 right here are what I consider the most common grape varieties. 3 red, 4 white. These are the workhorses of the wine world. You see them everywhere. And here's the fun part. Once you know this, you can pair wine with food like a pro. That's next level adulting, my friends. No more guessing if your wine goes with your steak or salad. The rule of thumb is super simple. Heavy food pairs with heavy wine. Think beef, lamb, those rich, hearty dishes. They need a wine with both tannins and a full body to match. Light fresh food, seafood, chicken, even tangy stuff like oranges. Pair that with something crisp and bright, like white wine or light-bodied red. It's all about balance. You don't want a wimpy white wine getting drowned out by a big juicy steak, and you don't want a tannin bomb overpowering your delicate shrimp scampi. Make sense? If 7 varieties still sound like too many to memorize, don't panic. 54 got you. Just remember these 3 and you'll be golden. First up, Pinot Noir. This is a red wine, but it's on the lighter side. Super smooth and easy drinking. So if you're a girl who wants to dip her toes into red wine without getting hit with a harsh tannini punch, Pinot Noir is your BFF. Here's the real tea. This is my all-time favorite red wine. Yep, 54's go to. Do yourself a favor and grab a bottle. Taste it. See if we've got the same vibe. If you love it, congrats. You've got great taste. If not, hey, no judgment. We can still be friends, but trust me, it's a good one. Now, the most famous place for Pinot Noir, Burgundy, France. You can't talk about Pinot Noir without mentioning Burgundy. It's like talking about pizza with mentioning Italy. Got that down? Good. Now, the second grape you need to remember, Cabernet Sauvignon. I butchered the French pronunciation of this one, so bear with me. Cabernet Sauvignon. Let's just call it Cab for short, like all the cool kids do. Cab is the polar opposite of Pinot Noir in the red wine world. It's full-bodied, packed with tannins, super dry, a little puckery, and tastes like serious wine. Where's Cab most famous? Bordeaux, France. You know, the fancy wine region we talked about earlier, but it's also huge in Napa Valley, California. They crank out tons of amazing Cab over there. Fun geography lesson. Bordeaux is further south than Burgundy. That means Bordeaux has a warmer climate, so the grapes get riper and sweeter. And as we learned earlier, riper, sweeter grapes need to more alcohol, more tannins, and a richer, bolder wine. See? We're connecting the dots like wine detectives. And what's the ultimate food pair for Cab? Steak. When people say red wine with steak, 9 times out of 10, they're talking about Cab. So here's a pro move for you. Next time you take a girl out for a fancy candlelit dinner, order a steak. Then lean in and say, you know what pairs perfectly with this? A Bordeaux Cabernet Sauvignon. Trust me, she'll look at you like you're a wine genius. Instant credibility boost. No extra effort required. Alright, that's a wrap on red wine for now. Knowing these 2 will cover like 90% of your red wine needs. Now let's dip into white wine real quick. And I'm gonna focus on Chardonnay. Among white wines, Chardonnay is a heavier hitter. Don't get me wrong, it's still way less bitter than red wine, but compared to other whites, it's not as tart. Instead, it's pretty rich and full-bodied. These varieties I've rambled about, they're everywhere, super common. So here's a win. Next time you're at an event or a party, you order wine with zero panic. No more copying your boss's order. taking one sip and then holding the glass for an hour because you can't stand the taste. That was cringy. I hate this, but I have to pretend moments. Gone. Proof. And knowing this stuff, it's a game changer for gifting wine or picking the right bottle for any occasion. Let's break it down. If you're bringing a bottle to a big gathering where lots of people will drink it, stick to crowd pleasers. Skip the super niche, extra bitter stuff. You don't want to be that person whose wine connects dust on the table. If you're gifting it, say, to an elder or your male boss, here's the move. Grab a nice, rich red wine. It screams mature and reliable, which is exactly the vibe you want to give off. See? It's not just about knowing wine. It's about avoiding awkwardness and nailing the moment. Easy peasy, right? But wait, one huge thing to never forget when picking wine, the price. Let's be real, that's what everyone's secretly thinking about. So let's break that down. The price range for red wine is all over the map. You can grab a bottle for a few bucks or drop thousands on one. Why the massive gap? And what even makes a good wine anyway? When people talk about good wine, most of us, myself included, immediately think of 1982 Lafite Rothschild. It's not just a wine anymore. It's a status symbol, like a fancy watch or luxury car. How expensive is 1982 Lafite? Do a quick research. Nowadays, a bottle costs around thousands of US dollars. Yeah, insane. So why is it so pricey? Two reasons, 1982 and Lafite itself. First, Lafite Rothschild is a winery in Bordeaux, France. Remember that fancy region we talked about? When you look at the wine list after the region, you see the winery names. France has thousands of wineries, but Lafite is one of the first girls. The top 5 most prestigious wineries in Bordeaux. It's basically wine royalty, but being royalty isn't just about a fancy name. It's like luxury fashion. Every step of the production process is strictly controlled. From planting and harvesting the grapes to pressing, fermenting, blending, and aging. Every detail matters, especially in our regions like Bordeaux. A lot of this is done by hand, following traditional standards that have been around for centuries. Let me give you an example. Normally, a single bottle of wine takes about 600 to 800 grapes to make. But there's a super fancy, ultra-premium wine called Sauterne, or noble raw wine in plant terms. To make this, you need specific grape varieties, and the grape skins has to be slightly damaged by a specific type of fungus. Yes, fungus. Trust me, it's a good thing. It's insanely hard to produce. A single bottle of noble raw wine can take 20,000 to 30,000 grapes. Plus, the process is super strict. When you factor in all those high costs, yes, the price skyrockets. Suddenly, that $10 bottle doesn't seem so cheap, huh? So to sum it up, the winery is a huge factor in wine pricing. Why? Because it's a winery that determines the quality and all the production techniques. It's basically the backbone of the wine's price tag. Now, the second reason 1982 Lafite is so pricey, the year 1982 itself. 1982 was what we call a vintage year for grapes. You know, like how some years are better for growing crops than others. A vintage year means grapes are top tier, and good raw materials are half the battle for a great wine. What makes a grape good? Well, variety matters, but generally speaking, we think of variety, riper grapes are better. Riper grapes have more sugar, which makes for better wine, so those are the grapes we're after. And to get those perfect grapes, climate is everything. You need plenty of sunshine and minimal rain. If it rains non-stop, the grapes get watered down and mushy. That's why you never hear someone say, London is a world-class wine region. The climate there is just not cut out for it. It also explains why the old world countries along the Mediterranean are perfect for growing grapes. Their climate is chef's kiss for wine. Back to 1982, that year had perfect weather. Sunny all year, barely any rain, no natural disasters. The grapes grew incredibly well, super ripe and flavorful. Plus, 1982 was 44 years ago. You can't make more 1982 Lafite. A lot of people buy this wine as an investment. It's only getting rarer and more expensive. So yeah, that's why the price just keeps climbing. It's not just wine, it's a rare commodity at this point. But let's be real, with thousands of wineries and vintage out there, we can possibly remember it more. That's why I have a little trick for picking good wine without overcomplicating it. Check the price. Here's a quick reference. Around $100, you can usually get a pretty high quality bottle for most grape varieties. And I'm talking regular wines, excluding fancy stuff like noble raw wine, obviously. So the sweet spot for value? Between 50 and 100. Any more expensive than that, and you're probably paying for rarity, status, or investment potential, or the extra fluff. Okay, we've covered a ton today. Let's do a quick recap so you can walk away with a game plan. First, start with the basics. Red, white, rosé, and sparkling. Then slowly get to know the different grape varieties. figure out their flavors and what you want. For example, if you sip wine and go, "Whoa, this is amazing," check the grape variety, jot it down, and know what food or occasion it worked for. Next time you pick wine, just go for that grape. 9 times out of 10, you'll love it. If you want to dive deeper, then start learning about wineries, vintages, and pricing. That's it. With these steps, the wine world is officially open to you. No fancy degree required. Now, if you have any thoughts, comments, or even pro tips from all the wine experts out there, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your questions for me. Alright, that's a wrap for today. Cheers! Quick PSA before I go. Drink moderately. Small sips are fun, but overdoing it is bad for you. And to all the minors out there, just watch and learn. Wait till you're of age to sip. Finally, hope everyone drinks happily and responsibly.